Hey everybody, this is Toby Eunice with News and Views. Behind the camera is my business partner Shelley Carney, and today, right now, we're at Abiquiu Dam, and we're on our way to El Vado. But I had the opportunity to speak to the operations manager of Abiquiu Dam. His name is John Mueller, and he works for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So John, Shelley and I are up here doing our research on what we call the southwestern drought, but especially in the area along the Rio Chama, the Rio Grande, and the Rio Pecos here in New Mexico. So that's what finds us up here at Abiquiu. So what I'd like to know from you is, generally speaking, what kind of impact is the drought having on New Mexico, especially from the perspective of the Rio Chama Basin?
Well, right now, fortunately, we're getting a lot of rain. The monsoons have brought us, for the past month, and it's been 4 months up here until July, or actually the last week in June, we started, the monsoons came in a little early. So we have been getting some good rain. If you look around, it's green up here, which has been great. But the past 10 years or more, we have been in a wider drought pattern, like most of the Southwest. And I think for our visitors, the biggest impact is when they crest Trujillo Hill coming up Highway 84, and they get to looking out into the Piedra Lumbre Basin, you see Abiquiu Dam and Abiquiu Lake, and we're storing a lot less water historically than we have in the past 10 years. And that's primarily due, I think, to usage and, the purpose of the water. So I think in the larger context, as you see in the Southwest, reservoirs are generally getting smaller due to the drought, but and we're part of that. But the reason for that for us is a little bit different, I think, just because of our authorizations to store water, who owns the water, why we store the water, and what its uses are for.
So what impact has the drought had on recreation? This was one of our fun places to come up to. What impact has it had in recreation in the area?
Well, I mean, usage, our type of recreationalists that come up, and, this used to be a really big motorboat lake. So we did have a whole lot of, water skiing, that, motorboat type traffic. It's a full wake lake. It still is. So very popular on the weekends, coming up, people fishing and skiing. We still have motorboats, but we have seen in the past decade, those user groups kind of changing. Less motorboats, they're going to larger lakes like Navajo, where they have more surface acreage to kind of spread out, and more paddlecraft. We get more like stand-up paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, things like that. More, our campground is still very full, but just that day use type of activity in the summer has kind of shifted. I think because of the water that we're storing a lot less water than we used to. Our authorization to store is 6220 elevation feet, which is about 180,000 acre feet. Last time we were there was in December of 2011, and we've been kind of dropping ever since, just because the users of this water, which is the contractors who purchase the water are using it and pulling it more, as before it was storing it up here, in previous years.
So I noticed in this morning's teacup report, you were down at about 50%. You seem to be on your board there, you seem to be just a little bit higher. Does that concern you, that 50%?
I guess the concern would be we're still under our authorized purposes of the dam, flood control, number one reason why we're here. And we will continue to do that, and we have successfully done that. Storage, yes. I mean, the main concern is just the changes that brings, and the management changes and challenges that brings, and making sure that we're being agile enough to get out ahead and meet those challenges, because it makes us on a, from dam operations standpoint, from storage to releases to the recreation aspect for our visitors coming up looking for affordable outdoor high quality experiences for their families, to make sure that we can provide that with, we're getting wider variances in shoreline. The shoreline changes when we go from, we can fluctuate 30 feet in a year, right? So that makes it a lot more difficult to maintain our docks, our courtesy docks, and anything out dealing with the shoreline. Our recreation infrastructure was pretty much created in the 70s and 80s at a certain water level, which is no longer the case. So we need to adapt to that and kind of bring that access down further, but make it possible to be flooded too. So things like that, I think are the biggest things we're seeing with the changing demographics and usages of the dam due to the amount of water we're storing is kind of the biggest challenges.
So for our viewers that are fisher people, what's the fishing like?
This year it's been tough because we haven't been seeing a lot of fishermen. They're here, and it's just we're getting less reports. Like if you go down to Sportsman's Warehouse, usually they have all the reservoirs, right? Yes. Yeah, a lot of times, unfortunately, I apologize for this, Abiquiu has no reports just because we're getting less boat traffic and less fishermen, so we're getting less reports. And I think when you do have these changes, one thing I will mention, one of these challenges I'm talking about is we're seeing more blue-green algae because of the change in water levels. We're oftentimes pushing through a lot of water through the system, the river system, so there's a lot of nutrients being passed through, but we're not necessarily storing as much. So you've got less water where the sunlight can get down, especially into the coves and things like that heat up the water. And you've got more runoff with these rains too, pushing these nutrients into the reservoir, which causes these algae blooms. So that's another effect. We haven't really seen that a whole lot on a large scale until about 2018 or 2019, and we've been seeing it every year, and later in the summer in July and August when the water is warmer. So that kind of changes things too. But as far as, that adds to some of these changes that I'm talking about. But, when you have these different water levels, I think it does affect the fishing a little bit. And I think people haven't really dialed into these changes yet because it changes where where you're going to find the fish and how they react and the temperatures and all that too. So I think there's still a little bit of searching for that right now.
And again, for a fisherman, what kind of species can they expect to hunt in the Abiquiu Reservoir?
Right, so most popular is probably going to be walleye, and then smallmouth bass. We do have the New Mexico Game and Fish stocks those as well as rainbow trout. And we do have some naturally spawning brown trout. You might find a couple kokanee salmon in here. They were put in here by New Mexico Game and Fish, but hasn't been for a number of years, so it's just kind of leftovers from that. And then channel catfish. We've got crappie, sunfish, and yellow perch. So quite a variance.
A wide range, and from warm water species to cold water species.
Yes, we're right on the cusp. We're right at like 6,300 elevation feet. So it's kind of, you go up to here and you'll get lake trout, but we don't have, it's too warm down here, but then you go further down to Cochise. So yeah, it is kind of an interesting mix.
Any last words for the people that are watching?
No, just, we appreciate everybody that comes up and enjoys the reservoir. That's why we're here. And we want people to use the resource and have a good time doing it, but being safe. So make sure you wear your life jacket when you come up to recreate, because that's our biggest thing here is making sure everybody goes home safe at the end of the day. But hope to see you up.
And just a moment on fees for parking, picnicking, and boating.
So the only fee we have currently in our day use areas is a launch fee. So and that only applies to motorized vessels. So to utilize our ramp, if you're coming up to picnic for the day in our Cerrito recreation area or downstream on the Rio Chama, there's no cost to that. Or if you're just coming out to paddleboard or whatever, as long as you're not launching a motorized vessel, it's $5 launch fee. If you are, our camping fees are $8 for a walk-in tent site, $12 for a pull-in non-electric site, a larger site, and then $16 for electric and water site. So that generally covers the costs that we have here to come recreate.